It's 1 minute before 11 o'clock on September 9th of 2020. I'm in Dallas, Texas. If you've watched any of my YouTube videos, then you know that among the things that I've documented have been real time transactions connected to crimes committed by people who believe that they have the cover of sovereign immunity. Among those crimes included crimes connected to the Supreme Court of Texas taking all of the cases off of their electronic filing site for a very extended period of time. All of them, for what I understood to be a sort of collateralization connected to something else that I documented. And when this was happening, there was tons and tons and tons of streaming child porn. And when the cases came back up, a disproportionate amount of the cases that were filed immediately after they started resuming public posting of case information had to do with sex offenses involving children, including several cases involving continuous sexual abuse of a child. And my concern was that two things were going on. One, that this was part of a process that Texas may do periodically, where it intentionally toxifies and does these things with these cases connected to sex crimes involving children as some sort of strategy that's not only non disclosed, but also is connected to other kinds of criminal activities that happen in conjunction with abuse of the electronic filing site. And that sometime shortly thereafter, and around the time that these cases were being declared, there was an announcement that several women were running for the Republican Party nomination in various congressional seats throughout the country. And there was a coinage bill that was pending and had benchmarks connected to it that I was following. This coinage involved coinage connected to the legacies of George and Barbara Bush, and there was a very specific period of time during which coinage was going to be made available. This is part of my allegations of illegal coinage. More recently, the President of the United States came on site to Texas, and there was an announcement of him meeting with Senator Ted Cruz, as well as in the presence of, if not directly with, the governor of the state of Texas. During that time, they had just released reports on a certain number of children that had been infected with COVID 19 during the first 2 weeks of their return to school. I understood this was a specific and strategic deal. That basically, Ted Cruz, who apparently last year was nominated as the temporary Senate pro tem, and the president had some sort of arrangement, and the president had to come on site to Texas for actually the third time in a year and acknowledge, right? It's at that level. The specific metric was not only coded to a legal fee case in Southern California, presumably targeting Michael Cohen, but also represented, if there was a specific algorithm that was applied, a biblical reference, as well as what would be a particular kind of interest on a certain metric that, if divided by 1,000, was a very, very significant hedge that Ted Cruz himself made earlier in the year, based on members of the military connected to a congratulation regarding the death of an Iranian military commander. I, at the time, expressed my concern that this was not in good faith and as part of a pattern of racketeering activity that actually constituted crimes. These crimes have continued to unfold. Right now, apparently, on the Texas Supreme Court website is this act of securities fraud engaged by members of the Texas Republican establishment. There's a lot of parties. I am very impressed with the way they lined them all up. I'm even more impressed with the 44 individuals with their addresses blacked out as if this is a criminal petition. Now, it was just up for a certain amount of time, but it was up long enough for the Supreme Court of Texas to give a very high level security In the names of these people, some of whom have their addresses and locations blacked out, there's 44 respondents, are Republicans named as well as affiliated with an organization in the state of Texas, intentionally targeting political opposition in order to make them the insurance on a nuclear default that's also leveraged the safety of Texas children. Now, the Supreme Court denied the petition. It should never have been accepted, and there should be criminal charges brought against all of the co conspirators in doing this. I know what happens when you do something like this. It accrues. This is not only criminal, I believe it's a contract hit. I believe it's a contract hit. And it's also an attempt at a cover up for people under the cover of sovereign immunity that not only abuse their power, but have already set in motion a means by which to effectuate a large number of fatalities. This is not acceptable. It is 11:05 p.m. Central Standard Time on September 9th, 2020. I will address this further tomorrow.